Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Marketing Podcast, your source for all things marketing. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so I have Michelle Koshman on the line, and she's a Chief Creative Officer over at A&B Publicity. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. Nice to be here. Thanks so much.
All right. So what a hot topic you chose today, Michelle. So turning brands into dollars while reaching the Millennial and Gen Z audiences. I mean, lots of business owners,
Right.
entrepreneurs, and executives listening that would like to do just that. And I want to get into that. But before we do, just give everybody a little bit of a feel for your background. Tell us a little bit more about your company, A&B Publicity, please.
Sure. So publicity makes something public, not necessarily popular. It kind of positions a brand or a person or a project in a way that the consumer gets enough information to make their own decision and their own takeaway from it, which ends up being a much more powerful play than marketing. So publicity is a lot of those third-party endorsements or reviews or different things that will help a consumer get a feel for what a project or a business or an individual is all about.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great transition. So let's just dive right into today's topic. So turning brands into dollars while reaching the Millennial and Gen Z audiences. Maybe just start off with kind of dispelling the myth and or just distinguishing between Millennial and Gen Z audiences for those that are listening.
Absolutely. I'm Gen X, so I'm in my 40s, so I definitely appreciate more and more how everyone that just looks younger doesn't get all lumped into one group. I mean, we're really trying to dispel that anyway, but you're really seeing trends between different generations, and a lot of it is what time they were born and what their life experiences were when they were coming into awareness of life and into adulthood. So you have millennials, which have been described as the first digital natives. They're now in their probably mid-20s to mid-30s. They've been the most racially and ethnically diverse groups. And they're the first groups that really like to buy from a phone. They're heavy on social media. They like filters on their social medias. They've coined a lot of the social issues that have taken form. But they also peaked during a time of recession. And, as things got back up, then we had the COVID pandemic, and then, that kind of brought everything back into reality in their 30s. So they have really kind of had to learn to grow in a business sense and in a consumer sense through some really difficult times while being very empathetic socially. Then you have Gen Z, which are a little bit younger. They're probably in their oldest range. They're in their late teens, maybe very early 20s. Down to 10, 11, 12. And they're now about 25% of the United States population. So if you just want to look at numbers and who you're going to be trying to reach, that's a quarter of our society, approximately 91 million people in the States. And they have a profound spending power of about $150 billion annually, which is amazing because most of these guys don't even have jobs or what we consider real jobs. So they're they're similar, but they are different. They've peaked at different times, of history, modern history, so to speak, and they've got slightly different perspectives and attitudes and wants and drives. So for businesses and brands that can learn how to speak to them, they're going to create, better brand awareness and customers for life.
So Michelle, first off, I fit into that category, and I don't know if I have a real job. So I'm a podcaster. So so when you said that, I'm like, wait a minute. She said I don't have a job, and I'm like, wait a minute. Well, I tell you, I didn't go to school for this because I don't think podcasting was really
right.
a thing. So I guess technically I don't have a job, but I work really hard. So thank you, and for all the millennials out there, I got your back. Don't worry. So Michelle,
actually, Aaron, I love that you said that because that leads into my kind of a huge thing that I really wish more businesses, and you can say older audiences, Gen X and Boomers would appreciate, is that millennials really formulated the digital space. When there were brands that they didn't want to get a website, they resisted getting on social media, or they hired someone to do it instead of doing it themselves. That was a wedge. There was a disconnect. Millennials by far are the first generation that said, this is how we reach people. It's no longer through newspapers in the Wall Street Journal or an advertisement in the Penny Saver, those who remember that. It's through reaching out over digital. It's how you touch hearts. It's how you influence minds, and it's how you make change. So in that sense, I'm saying real jobs by probably an older definition of what like my parents and grandparents might say. But in terms of what's really turning the world, millennials and Gen Z by far are really the ones shifting us into a new evolution of society.
And so let's go further down the line on that kind of same chain of thought and what it means to turn brands into dollars. So, I mean,
sure.
what are some things that you've noticed that can be done to do this effectively, I should say?
Right. So you're seeing a lot of, let me just talk in terms of branding, what something stands for or what its reputation is versus what it advertises to be, right? So I can put an advertisement out and say my company is the best company for, it's the best Italian restaurant, I'm the best realtor, I'm the best fashion designer, whatever I want to put. But that's just me talking about myself. My reputation and how people see me in the industry goes a little more into branding. So what we're seeing is how people choose to spend their consumer dollars is based more on the personality than maybe even on the product itself, its reputation. So we're seeing like with younger audiences, and I say younger, even though they're in their 30s, but millennials and Gen Z, they're seeing a lot more value reflected in social concerns. If there's empathy about being a part of the solution, whether it's climate change or diversity in leadership, whether it's the meaning of their message rather than just the product itself. I make a great cake. Well, what they want to see is that we use sustainable products. We hire a diverse group in our bakery. We recycle. We use recycled products. We donate to the community. That all becomes a part of that business's reputation. And more younger purchasers and consumers from Gen Z and millennial audiences are choosing that over the well-established brands that have just been product-driven for generations.
Yeah, I noticed that, and especially in the like direct to consumer like package space or anything like that. Like you just see these brands that come out of nowhere and they just displace larger brands, and you're like, wow, and they create
Absolutely.
these audiences and this loyalty like literally out of nothing, and you're like, wow, how they do that. And you're right, I think it does come down to really like connecting and knowing their audience. So that being said,
Absolutely.
Michelle, first off, I can talk to you about this all day long, but we're about out of time. So that being said, if somebody is listening to this right now and they want more information on A&B publicity, so final question, two-part question. Number one, what are the right types of clients, whether organizations or individuals, that are usually a good fit to work with you and your team? And number two, what's the best way for them to reach out and to connect?
In terms of working with my team specifically, or with someone's own brand? Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, we work mostly in entertainment, PR, film, television, music, fashion, award shows, but we also work digitally in tech, philanthropy causes, and even with some departments of tourism. So they can find more from us at ambpublicity.com or on all social platforms at ambpublicity.
Fantastic. Well, Michelle, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and really dispelling, or I should say giving us some insight into what it takes to turn brands into dollars while reaching the Millennial and Gen Z audiences. So thank you for that. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review in the Apple iTunes store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Marketing, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Michelle, thanks again for coming on the show.
Absolutely. It's been great. Thank you.